the local political scene behaves or misbehaves. It's gotten so absurd that I came up with a joke earlier today with a friend who asked me about the school board candidates last night. I told him to imagine we're playing that old board game, Guess Who? You know, the game where you sit across from each other with a secret character and you're supposed to ask basic investigatory questions like, does your person have blonde hair? Does your person have glasses? Is your person male or female? And at the risk of triggering some listeners, yes, I specifically picked the male or female question, but I digress. So let's make the actual joke in the school board election process. I ask the opponent sitting next to me, how does your favorite candidate feel about policy 5756? Or what about how HIB reports actually work in your opinion? Or whether the S2 funding formula should be reformed or thrown out? And my friend says, I have no idea what you're talking about. I say, well, shouldn't someone help us average voters understand these issues and where the candidates stand? And he replies, yeah, but it's kind of late in election season for that. Then we both just flip the board in frustration. Because remember, before I turned into a radio host, before I started organizing political events, before I built a website, I was just an average voter. And now here I am being asked of a friend for election help. And I'm still half throwing my hands in the air saying, honestly, dude, I don't know how much I can help you. For context, I've been trying to coordinate civic informations like this for 2.5 years. I've sent outreach to all the candidates, spoken during public comment at school board meetings, and built the infrastructure for candidates to share their platforms. So at this point, every candidate should be aware that this project exists. And yet, here we are, doing a radio hour that could have gone to a candidate explaining their own ideas about bullying policies, but instead it's going to a parent explaining what allegedly happened to her child. And again, I'm happy to talk with Victoria, but let's not forget this is a radio hour at a station that many in the political class listen to. At the end of campaign season, perhaps a candidate should be here instead. Whatever, I suppose that's their strategy choice. Either way, I still don't get paid to do this. Maybe that's what this community chose, even if unintentionally. After all this outreach, all this effort, all this time, the reality is that this conversation now falls to the people willing to speak up. So with that in mind, our guest tonight is Victoria Iris Santos, a mother who says she has been deeply frustrated by how her daughter's bullying case was handled in the Vineland school system. She's a Christian, a wife, and a mom who volunteered at her child's school, joined the PTO, donated to events, and took part in building the community, only to eventually pull her daughter from the district after a final incident that she says was mishandled. We're going to hear about that case tonight. We'll talk about what actually happened according to her, how the district's response lined up, or didn't, with its own anti-bullying policies, and what changes Victoria thinks are needed. I want to be clear. What you'll hear tonight are her experiences and her perspective. The district and candidates are invited to offer a response, and if they do, we'll share it on our platform. This conversation is not about assigning guilt or drawing legal conclusions. It's about transparency, process, and what happens when systems that are supposed to protect children don't seem to work as intended. If you're a parent listening, you might recognize some of what she describes. If you're a voter, you'll get a better sense of why it's not enough to just elect people. We have to understand how these systems function and what oversight really looks like. So tonight, instead of hearing from the candidates who could have filled this space with their own words, we'll hear from a parent who's lived the potential consequences of the current system. And with that, welcome, Victoria.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Stephen.
Well, thank you for showing up.
So, yeah, everything you said is correct. I am a Christian, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, and I'm actually a graduate of the Landis Avenue School, where the board sits and makes policy decisions that affects me today as a high school graduate of '09. And I'm coming forth with my story because I think it resonates with the community. I do not come from wealth. I do not come from any notoriety whatsoever. And I think for that, I can only speculate that these are the reasons why the board has chosen silence. After sharing my grievances publicly on October 1st, I do also want to say that my comments do not include Mr. Buono, who is a board member. He has been more than kind, and I definitely appreciate his seat on the board.
Sure. So then, with that in mind, could you explain a little bit about the backstory of what led up to you wanting to start to speak out, go to school board meetings, making public comments, and wanting to do a radio show?
Yeah, so after trying to attempt to handle this privately with executive closed meetings with the principal at Johnstone, Mr. James Pierce, that proved very unsuccessful. After attempting to offer my partnership in terms of policy reform as one that I did study this, and it's something that's, a bit of an area which I dive into. Their silence has served as a decline. And so what led up to this would be what I find me becoming, in my own words, an annoyance or a nuisance.
I know what that feels like. You try to talk to people in a professional, straightforward manner, and sometimes they're just evasive or they have their own ideas of how things are supposed to go. So with that in mind, could you talk a little bit about what your daughter's experience was in the school, just to set the stage for our listeners? Yes,
absolutely. So in March 1st of this year, I had several encounters with Mr. Pierce where what I would perceive he thought I was challenging his leadership. One of which was there was absences on her record that were incorrect because he had outdated policies on the school website. That was corrected, a little bit of pushback, but it was done. Then following a gym teacher had the students running pacers, where you're running from one side of the gym to the other. And he decided that day that they were going to exhaust themselves and not get any drink of water. This was strange. I brought it up to Mr. Pierce's attention. On his tone on the phone seemed like he did not really want to address it. That's my perspective. But we moved forward. Following April of this year, I received a phone call from Mr. Pierce saying my daughter had recorded a fight and she's going to receive 2 days of in-school suspension. My daughter has a clean record. She's very meek. She's pretty much quiet. She makes, good relationships with her teachers. So this was truly a shock. So initially I believed him. Got home, asked my daughter, did you record a fight? And she's like, no. She was like, I didn't know there was a fight. Well, what happened was my daughter had to use the bathroom between periods, and she received permission. There were other girls in there having some kind of discussion or disagreement of some sort. My daughter did hear that, there are students who were not in agreement for one reason or another. She did not intentionally choose that bathroom. She wanted to go to another one. The teacher said, no, just go down the one down the hall.
Well, can you explain that a little bit, why your daughter might not want to be in a particular bathroom?
I think that she had an idea that the girls were there, and there were, probably some talk about it. She did not insert herself in that situation. She truly just had to go to the bathroom.
Right.
She saw the girls having a discussion. She saw that it was, probably not fit for her to stay there, so she leaves. So that was truly what happened. The in-school suspension that he issued her was on the basis that she recorded a fight and that she was pulled out by security.
Now, where would he get the idea that she recorded it?
I have no idea. I have no idea. But I know that after pressing him, when I asked that same question, what evidence do you have? He did not have any. When I asked him to show me the camera footage of the security guard pulling my daughter out the bathroom, because I would want to see that, he said, I never said that, and took back everything that he had said.
Now, what would lead you to believe there was camera footage of a security guard pulling your daughter out of the bathroom?
So I know the school. So for one, when I enter a school, I am acting like I'm OSHA. I'm looking at I'm looking at every corner. Where's the cameras? What's plastered on the wall? What messaging is going on? And I examine the environment, especially because we're in an age where the school pushes ideas that certain families don't agree with.
Sure.
So I knew there was a camera there because of parent-teacher conferences.
Okay, so
prior.
you knew the right question to ask.
Yeah.
Like, just show me the camera footage that you should have.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
And also to say that I am a teacher at another district, so I know that there was a big budget that they put cameras everywhere. So moving forward, I called him out on it. He refused to remove that ISS. During this time, my daughter was getting bullied by other students.
It's a lot of details.
No,
sorry to
many,
keep interrupting, but so basically, she got a suspension for allegedly recording a fight or whatever.
And to be clear, that's what he told me over the phone, but on paper, he put that she went to the bathroom without permission.
Okay, sure.
Which was his validation for she should have never been in that bathroom.
Right.
Now, that is also not true, because he did not do his due diligence to find out if she had permission. He assumed, and we know what happens when we make assumptions, and she did in fact have permission from the teacher, and I insisted that he speak to that teacher. In this conversation that I had with him in his office, he refused. He refused to remove it. I asked him, I said, this is really going to be, pose a concern on my family. My daughter's going through a pretty dark time right now because they had what I would call a festering culture of bullying in Johnstone School. Not everything is reported. And when it is, as I will get into detail, it is hidden. It is hidden from supervisors. It's hidden from the board. But we'll get into that. So moving forward, I said, I'm going to speak to your supervisor, right? Just, the chain of command.
Sure.
I went to the supervisor. Immediately when I got there, he says, oh, Ms. Santos, I was expecting you. Just to let you know, Mr. Pierce texted me, and everything's taken care of. And at that point, for one, red flag, why is he texting you instead of emailing you? But perhaps they have that kind of relationship, or maybe that's what you do when you want something off the record. So who really knows?
Yeah, me getting into this space over the past couple of years, I've been hearing the phrase off the record a whole lot.
And for good reason.
Sure.
I think it's controlling the narrative, ultimately what it is.
Well, there's also a fair amount of people do spin things or make things up, and you want to be able to have your private conversations. But I do understand how messy it can get. As in you clearly just told me this yesterday.
Right.
And now somebody else is saying something completely different. Am I allowed to tell the truth or not?
Right. And it just intentional vagueness or just confusion or whatever the case may be. But
anyway, back to the story.
Thank you. Yes. So I spoke with Mr. Ismael Bermudez. He is the supervisor of operations. He's the supervisor of all principals. And he's actually the coordinator for anti-bullying in Vineland District. And that's very important. So I want everyone to remember that. His job is to enforce anti-bullying policies. As in,
the buck stops with him, kind of.
We would assume that it stopped with the superintendent and then the board, but from an anti-bullying initiative, perspective, that's his role.
Yeah,
that's his focus, and I have a lot to say on that. So going forth, right? This is a negative relationship I have of James Pierce. Principal James Pierce of Johnstone School, very tainted relationship, and I made that clear to him. In his office, I let him know that he is not my daughter's father, he is not the military, and I see how he runs this school on fear, and it's very ineffective. And I find that to be a sign of weak leadership. To be clear, I am calling him a weak leader.
Can you unpack a little bit of why you would say it's a culture of fear? Or
yeah, well, because for one, so I'm a mom and I go through all of my daughter's text messages.
Okay.
So I know what the students are saying. Yes. Yes. Sorry. No, for sure. I own it. And with this, students are sharing. They don't like Mr. Pierce. They, there's really not respect. And I think what happens is with all these conversations, now these are conversations that are happening from child to child, because we are talking about children. This is the perspective that they have, and I think that's a real perspective. And if we were to have, just fast forward for a second, anonymous climate surveys from these students frequently, I think they would reveal a truth that's not being shown, and which is why I'm here today to be a voice for my daughter, and to be a voice for everyone, for these students, for the parents that are scared that they're going to face retaliation, because that is what I am alleging. That because I was a quote-unquote nuisance and I put his leadership in check, there was retaliation.
Sure. And
False
just
reports.
to relate to that just a little bit, being in this political space, sometimes I feel like a nuisance too, and by just asking for information that should probably already be available.
Yeah.
Like, who are you guys? What's your campaign messaging? Do you have any experience for the position you're seeking? All this, and I've been escorted out of meet and greets.
Wow.
I've been banned from political meetings and stuff. It's like, yeah, I know I'm not a perfect person, and sometimes I, irk people or whatever. But still, I always revert back to I'm just asking how to vote.
Yeah.
And
You're
share
being
some of the information that I find with the public. And so, long way of saying, I'm not entirely surprised.
Right, and your work and what you're doing with InformTheVote.NJ.com is exactly what parents need. We want to know who's in charge, who's going to take over, what are you offering to the public, because ultimately I think that sometimes people forget, and all the campaigning and the popularity contest, that you are a public servant.
Right.
And what you're doing, which we are so grateful for in the community, is you're outlining that and giving parents an inside look, which really shouldn't be an inside look.
Right.
It should be
transparent.
Absolutely. So, kudos to you for all the work that you do. We need more people
not to make
like you.
this all about me. You're my guest today.
Thank you. So, then leading up to the actual, bullying incident that we have on record, which led to an HIB, which is harassment, intimidation, bullying. That is a report that parents can initiate if their child is experiencing bullying.
Just to clarify, isn't that supposed to already be initiated by the school when they notice?
So yes, but in this case, which I'm going to detail, incidences that my daughter experienced in the past were initiated by me because there was a lapse in protocol.
Okay, so you were filling the gap.
Right, because not to throw anyone under the bus, but certain counselors would be aware that, my daughter was being bullied for, say, one example was she was being tutored by a young boy, and he was frustrated with her not being able to grasp the math concepts that he was trying to share, and he began to call her dumb and told other students that she was slow. And so in that instance, the counselor was aware. She did nothing. My daughter cried for the afternoon. She did nothing. That's the counselor in Johnstone School. I will say I think that that was the case in her defense, because I do think that she's overworked. Do not want to throw her under the bus. I like her very much. But what is happening in Johnstone? Why do staff feel so overwhelmed that they cannot reach every student?
Right.
Is it so I digress.
Sure.
So moving on. So my daughter was bullied by this one young lady. And I will begin by saying our heart goes out to her. We had no animosity towards this young lady. She is a child. My daughter, by this student, she is unfortunately a known bully. She had fought a boy in the past, recently, leading up to this. And to say, I can't characterize her, I don't know her, but the first incident, my daughter was playing speedball. You throw a ball, peg somebody out, and then, a team gains points and another team loses. My daughter apparently is very good at this sport.
I used to love that game.
It's a good game. We had hard balls, though. Do you remember? Those were like the stiff ones.
We had like the Nerf balls over at Rossi.
Okay,
I
we
think
had
that's what we're
silicone
using.
or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, maybe we can play that in the park later.
Yeah, we'll test to see if we're still good
crap
at
out
it.
of each other.
Yeah, just relieve some stress.
Anyway, back to the story.
So she was playing. My daughter was winning. This, young lady, I would assume she was getting jealous. She was upset that she was losing to my daughter, and the gym teacher was aware that this girl gets very aggravated. So he says, Sophia, just ignore her. And in the gym teacher's defense, that's the environment where he knows kids are going to be upset for losing, and so nothing against him. But moving forward, they played another time. They were playing flag football, and this is a non-contact sport where you have a flag on your waist. You pull the flag, the person loses. They're out. Rumors were going on that she was upset with Sophia because Sophia's, good in gym, and she pushes my daughter in this game. Now, this is on camera. We'll get to that in a second. Okay, so building up aggression, she began sharing rumors about my daughter that were false, that my daughter wanted to fight her. All this to say that she was building a narrative that she was the victim.
Mm-hmm.
So then my daughter attempts to talk with her. Hey, why are you spreading false rumors? Okay. Fourth incident, my daughter's walking down the hallway. The young lady shoulder bumps her pretty aggressively and calls her the B word. And we all know what that is. So by this point, my daughter's aggravated and just confused as to why she's being so targeted. One day, my daughter takes a carrot about an inch in size and throws it probably 10 feet away from the girl. Now, I did see the footage. It did not hit the girl.
Oh, that's a key detail.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm not here to paint any child perfect. I'm not here to say my daughter is not in any way, a child where she's going to be fed up with bullying, and
I'm an adult, and I feel like sometimes when I'm irking the politicians, it's not because I'm doing it on purpose, but the situation escalates, and it's like, all right,
we need
now
an
I draw
answer.
the line, and I gotta say something.
Yeah, you want engagement. You want to gain an understanding on, this is an interaction that, could either be good or bad. For politicians, it should be good for them if you're approaching them. For children, this case, not.
It'll be a little bit more messy.
Yes. So that unfortunately leads to this snowball of a situation that I'm calling, where the girl begins to curse my daughter out. She's upset, carrots are flying, and this is of high concern. Now, I will say, I don't think my daughter should have thrown a carrot in a cafeteria.
Ideally not.
No, ideally not. Food should be eaten. It was her carrot, but it shouldn't be thrown.
Sure.
I will say, as a teacher, I see a lot of flying food. But I digress. So my daughter is then called to the office by Principal James Pierce of Johnstone, and he says, Sophia, did you throw the carrot? And she's like, well, let me tell you. Like, she attempts to tell Mr. Pierce that this girl's been bullying her for weeks, right? A culture of bullying. You didn't do anything about the other incidences in the past. Didn't do anything about the year prior, with another principal, where my daughter was being cyberbullied in school, and her profile was changed to Family Guy and his wife engaging in adult acts.
Yikes.
And other messages that were put on my daughter's computer for the entire class to see.
Right.
Very shaming. So this is a history. I won't get into those details, but my daughter was saying, hey, this is my chance to just say what happened. And Mr. Pierce responds, he says her name twice, and he says, we're not talking about that. Did you throw the carrot? Right? Because again, flying carrots is a high concern in Johnstone. So he silences my daughter, calls me, and says she has, I think, a day of in-school suspension, to which I say, yeah, I'm going to need this conversation on record. I'm going to need this in an email because I do not trust you. The conversation ends really shortly. I may have been at work. I'm not really sure. But immediately, as soon as I could, I got my child. And that's where I filed a HIB report. Correction. Mr. Ismael Bermudez files a HIB report on my behalf.
Okay.
So,
and the HIB is the harassment, intimidation, and bullying report.
Right. And this is on May 20th of this year. And I unexpectedly approached Mr. Ismael Bermudez, anti-bullying coordinator of the District of Vineland, and I detailed, this is the incident, this is what happened. And he doesn't seem too happy to see me. I think, probably that nuisance,
Oh, like you're going to be the annoying parent.
That addresses
questioning how he does things or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
So I explained to him that Mr. Pierce has lied in the past, and I do not trust him. And this is a case where you do not have the full narrative. And I spent over an hour in his office with Ismael Bermudez, anti-bullying coordinator. And on the HIB report, he writes 2 sentences. Parent of so-and-so says daughter is being bullied, and an incident happened in the hallway. That's it. No witnesses that the gym teacher saw this girl being aggressive. None of the witnesses.
Okay, so now I'm starting to see it. As in, you basically gave him a much more thorough explanation than you're giving me right now.
Right.
And you're saying the ultimate result on the report is a carrot was thrown, basically.
And to fast forward June 30th, I have an executive close meeting, and his reasoning for that was there's a limited character amount on that form, which is not true.
What does that even mean?
So when you're filling out the details of the case and what had occurred, he said there wasn't any more room to put any more details, right?
Okay.
Right. Not true at all, but that's not...
Just for clarification, I understand how computers work. Right. I think there might have been a little bit more room. Anyway.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. Character limits, it's 2025, you have a lot more. So my issue, not only with that he omitted information, and I know this because I requested what's called a redacted copy of the HIB form, which parents can request if a personnel is filling out a HIB on your behalf. A bullying report on your behalf. You can request a copy.
Why would it be redacted?
It's students' names, which that's actually a great question, because if I gave you the information, I gave you the names, why would you redact that from me?
Right. Well, are they afraid you're gonna post it on Facebook or something?
Maybe. Maybe. I haven't gotten there yet. But what's crazy is that this form he filled out was not the correct form. There's a parent form and then there's a personnel form. He filled out the parent form and put, when it says who's filling out this form, he put that I filled it out.
Oh.
That's a breach of policy. I called the state of New Jersey. That is not how you fill out that form. And I will also say that Governor Murphy in 2022 put out that form. It's called an LEA HIB 338 form. And that form was designed to prevent exactly this. Misconstruing of information, to make things more linear, because personnel was expected to be detailed, and that's what the form says. It says be detailed as much as you can.
Right.
It's a state requirement.
Right, because the whole thing is a lot of these events or incidents are going to have a lot of details, and they want to actually investigate what happened, not some sort of amorphous or very brief or overly brief. Right. Not 2 sentences over after a 1 hour description of what happened. Anyway.
Exactly. Thank you for clarifying. And this was to ensure that all information was uniform across the state, because this the state of New Jersey has been sued by parents several times. And unfortunately, what happens is parents feel after doing battles like I have, they have to get an attorney. There's deadlines. You have they have to report the bullying incident same day. They have, and the board has 10 days to respond. Then the parent has 10 days to appeal, and then you have 90 days before you go to the commissioner, so on and so forth. This is public information. So there is a chain of commands, and I thought this was going to be very feasible to solve. I have the anti-coordinator of anti-bullying in front of me. This should be, clear and concise. It was not. And I do think that vagueness was intentional. I am alleging. So it did not include my witnesses. If that was redacted from me, that makes no sense. And to that I say, with parents, if you're going to file a bullying report, fill it out yourself. If a personnel fills it out for you, fill out a second one.
Right.
If they asked your child in this incident to fill out a statement, those can also be used against students, which it often is.
Right.
There are these crafted narratives that serve to protect them, so they keep their job.
Right.
So why do I say that?
I mean, just to help me follow along, and it might help some of the listeners follow along. It's like we live in this culture of lawfare, and so everything has to be written down to every detail. And if you don't dot your I's, cross your T's, and provide at least as much documentation as the other side, then it's going to look like you're unprepared or doing it the wrong way.
Right. Yeah,
everybody needs a law degree to send their kid to public school.
Yes, and there's a quote that says Ivy League, actually the road to hell is paved by Ivy Leagues, which is to say anybody who does not have a degree, please do not worry. Like, if you go on that the Vineland District website. The policies are there, and read through it. And if you feel that it's vague and it's hard to understand, it's because it is like intentional vagueness. But I think that we are all bound by the same policies. And so if there's some form of vagueness, I can use that to my advantage.
Right.
So with that being said...
Oh, I know what you mean by that.
Yes. So with that being said, I received another report. It's called a HIBster report, where I asked, what evidence do you have? My HIB was denied. Okay, my HIB was denied, meaning the bullying that my daughter experienced did not exist, right?
Or it didn't meet the threshold of qualitative analysis or whatever.
Right. So actually, to your point, yes, it didn't meet the 9 characteristics of HIB. So I spoke with several attorneys, and they told me this HIB policy, it protects only some students, and many parents during this time, to quote the attorney that I had spoke to, said they thought this was a huge win. And it's
for who?
For students across the board, for schools, to minimize bullying. We're going to have...
Oh, you're saying the process itself was supposed to be a huge win.
Right.
But here we are.
Here we are. It's supposed to be streamlined. You file a report. It goes to... actually goes to the principal. They have to do an investigation within 24, 48 hours. Then the board receives it. They have 10 days to review the facts. And then here's the kicker. Here's the fun fact, is that if you're having issues with a principal, guess who's in charge of what's called substantiating or unsubstantiating that bullying report that you as a parent filled out? The very principal. The very principal. So, which to me is bias. And that in itself needs to be corrected, but that's something that will...
Wouldn't there... I think you mentioned in the correspondence that there is like an appeal process, though, right?
Right. So there's an appeal process, which I did engage in. And so I received a copy of what's called a HIBster report. And it said, I received this by Mr. Pierce, and it said, evidence, none. There was no evidence, right? So I'm like, well, this is you're hiding the narrative. I will speak to the board, and this will be fixed, right? And I'm like, here I go. I prepared my speech. During one of my conversations with Ismael Bermudez, it was frustrating, and I remained very professional, and I hold to that. He was getting aggravated with me. And I turned to my husband. My husband is always, with me in these cases. He's fully aware of what's going on. And I said, ay, Dios mío, señora, ayúdame, which means in English,
help me.
Yes, Lord, help me.
Husband, help me.
Yes, husband, help me. Yes. And he's always there. And I thank God for him. And I said, Lord, help me. To which Ismael Bermudez said, you don't need the Lord. You don't need the Lord. Which, for me, that's disrespectful. I don't think you would say that to any other person of a different denomination or religion. I don't know his religion, but that's definitely crossing the line. So I went to the board meeting with a shirt that says, we need the Lord.
Can you unpack a little bit about why that conversation was frustrating?
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. And it's because I demanded to see the camera footage of my daughter being pushed in the hallway and being pushed. Yep, so great question. And I like that you asked that, because I told Mr. Bermudez, you have many cameras. To which he responded, yeah, there's about 30 cameras outside. And I said, perfect. So then you're going to be able to witness that child. And I, pray for the family. I pray for this young girl. We actually emphasized we didn't want discipline action on this girl. I don't know what's going on with her, but something needs to be addressed. And so pull up one of those 30 cameras and let's find out what happened. Couldn't find her. He's like, it's the long footage. I can't really identify your daughter. I really don't have to. Do you really want to sit here and 30 minutes of footage and go through this with me? And I just, by that point, I was frustrated. He was tired of seeing me. That's where the frustration started to build.
Oh, no, I know what you mean.
So I make an appointment with the board, an executive closed meeting, and I said, I need to see the board, and they have 10 days to initiate a meeting with me. And we were going back and forth on dates, and I told them, I can't see you on these dates. Funny enough, those were the dates that they wanted. To which I said, unless you're going to pay my husband, who's a clinical therapist, to miss work, and you're going to write him a check, then I'm not doing that date. So June 30th, have the date, the same spiel that I just gave you, I give to them. On the board there was Ms. Cadaspati, Mr. Harris, and Mr. Buono. God bless Mr. Buono. We need him on the board. I will vote for him time and time again. Okay. So they were there. I'm giving them the speech. And all these details, they ask, okay, well, Ms. Santos is saying she has witnesses. Is that on the form? where's that? And then Mr. Ismael Bermudez replies, oh, right, it's still an ongoing investigation, so I'm going to add it. Right? Because that makes perfect sense. Put it on the form, right? Was it a redacted copy, or was my evidence never there? I probably will never know. Who knows what I plan to do going on forward. But the board, I all say all that to say, on June 30th, the board was made aware. My daughter was going through a very dark time at Johnstone in the beginning of this year. And I explained to them some of the details, some of her mental health issues that we were seeing. You know, we sought professional help. And to this, from that day forward, we received a notice saying my appeal was denied, likely because of the carrot. And also, I want parents to really understand, HIB is only for protected classes. Right? So what does that mean?
Oh, right, yeah.
It's based on gender, race, religion, and the other 9 characteristics. So if your child, in this case, is, like my daughter is a Puerto Rican with Cuban ancestry, and we're proud Americans. And so if your daughter is, let's just say Puerto Rican, right? Puerto Rican picking on another Puerto Rican, that doesn't fall under HIB. That's just bullying. That's just a conflict, right? You know, carrots. Selective HIB. You know, carrots were flying. So this is a serious concern. And so, anyway, I digress. So I got the HIB. It was denied, and I let them know I'm not going to let this go. And I tried to reason with them. Was I really expecting the HIB to be appealed? I think by the end of it, when I sat there in front of that board, I knew that it wasn't going to be.
You could just feel it.
Yeah, I knew this was a lost case. But then I realized something really deafening in the room, that I wasn't being heard, and I was going to continue to be silenced because it's just this conflict, right? Never mind the students that get bullied in the bathroom and are beat up, which countless parents have reached out to me. So
you're kind of saying, like, your daughter's instance might not seem as big as some others,
right?
But if it's part of the pattern,
right, then
it should be addressed,
right? Which led us to pulling her out of public school. I'm like, no, this is a pattern of retaliation. I do not have the partnership of the principal. I do not have the partnership of the anti-bullying coordinator, Ismael Bermudez. I do not have the side or the ears of the board, with the exception of Mr. Buono. And this was alarming for me, so I took the summer to think and to research and to read books about Thomas Sowell, about how the school has a monopoly on this system. And to quote Thomas Sowell, who is a renowned economist, he is an author of countless books, and he says that when schools have a monopoly, they have only one choice: to treat that its customer as such, with contempt, which means public schools are not run on a system where they have to please their customer, the parents.
Okay. There's a lack of accountability because they have the monopoly.
They have the monopoly.
Gotcha.
Kids,
they don't have to answer to you.
They don't. Kids are already going to be plucked and placed in their schools. It's going to be divided. You know, you're going to get that federal funding because the schools live there. They have to go into that specific school down their street, unless you're a parent like me that says, no, she's not going there, right? So I have 4 observations. Basically, I proposed several questions before the board.
So we're moving out of like the backstory section, and now you're going to propose some suggestions of how this could be handled better in the future?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I see myself right now as a parent that's echoing things that have already been said. I am not a person that's bringing something new, and I won't be the last parent. So with that being said, I had approached the board October 1st of, are we still in October?
Yeah.
Of this month, and I made a speech. That speech received 20,000 views across several platforms, one of which on my speech alone on my Facebook that I shared and made public, it got over 15,000 views. Mm-hmm. So this resonated with the community. Mm-hmm. I received countless stories about how their child is being bullied. Quick pause, if we look at Adriana Cush, she's a student, I think, in Ocean County who is no longer with us.
Right.
14-year-old, died by suicide. She was beat up in the bathroom, and the parents, the attorneys say that they are seeking accountability from that school.
As in, they did not handle it appropriately.
They did not.
Okay.
And that, unfortunately, my heart goes out to that family. She is no longer with us. And after hearing her story, I knew my child is not going to be that. She's not going to fall into that statistic.
Yeah, you're going to protect your kid.
Right. And the board should keep in mind that suicide is the second leading cause of death on some of my research on this. And so that's why
You
this
mean for
matters.
kids,
For
right?
kids, yes.
Yeah.
For kids. And so that's why this matters. So I posed 3 questions. October 1st, I'm there. I have my We Need the Lord shirt. Mr. Ismael Bermudez, anti-bullying coordinator, is sitting at the table to the right. Room is full of the board. I'm looking at this room like the stage in which the board is sitting on, I walked as a 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grader. I have had numerous memories in this very building. So I go up now, I'm a mom, and I'm telling them my frustrations. I have grievances, and I share more than anything a warning to parents. If your child is experiencing bullying, do not depend on the board. You have to be persistent. So what happens now? After 20,000 views, 20 days later, I hear silence.
Right. Ongoing investigation, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know. Why won't they respond to our demands? And now this has shifted from my demands to our demands, because I have many parents with countless stories who are saying they shared the same experiences. And I want to let parents know that whether your child was painted a bully or not, you are welcome, at this table. You are welcome in the boardroom. And one of my friends, Ashley Rivera, had said we should call these initiatives Fill the Room, because that's what we need. We need parents in the board.
You mean like at the board meetings?
Yes, which is a term that's used politically as well. We need people to hear what these candidates are sharing, right? What are they advocating? And as a parent, we want to hear what they have to say. Who's running for what? How are you going to potentially protect parental rights, those that are running for the board?
And you know what? Let me piggyback off that for 1 second, because from my experience, a lot of times candidates will say, well, it's a two-way street, right? In the sense that when I try to ask candidates for information, a lot of times the reason they say they don't put it out is because they say the public isn't even interested in it. There's no reason to promote it, or, people stop buying the newspapers. They expect everything to be for free on social media. So they themselves say, well, show up to the meetings. So maybe you can use that line. They want you to be there. They want you to run your mouth during public comments.
I will be there every first Wednesday for the rest of my life now.
Yeah.
This is my new mission. And again, I am partnering with many parents. And so, they want us there. Steven, we're going to be there. We're going to be there. So I pose 3 simple questions. How will you reform handling bullying of all types? The ones that fall even outside of those protected classes. How will you ensure that employees are submitting the correct forms? And how will these trackings be handled where generic cases of bullying are also given the same attention as protected classes?
Right. Can you say those 3 again, just a little slower, because it's a lot to take in?
Yes. So I'm going to read this verbatim then.
Sure.
How will the board reform their approach to handling all types of bullying? How will they ensure employees are submitting the correct forms and submitting all evidence? And how will bullying be tracked for cases outside of protected classes?
I think that second one is a big one.
Yeah.
Because what are you going to do? Are you going to look over everybody's shoulder every time they fill out a form? Are you going to go to school with your kid to make sure that when there's an obvious bullying case going on, that you're going to go look over at the random teacher down the hall and see if they're actually going to file a HIB, or like how is that actually going to help or be implemented?
Yes, that's a great question. I think it's something that I'm researching now, and I am just so excited to hear all of what parents have to say for the positive.
Sure.
How can we fix this? Because it is, many say it's a broken system. I say it's a rigged system. And we want to make this...
It's not a bug, it's a feature.
Yeah.
You know that phrase?
I have heard it, yes.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so we want to address this head on. And I mean, like, I had told you previously, if I have to hold up signs in front of the board, I will outside. If I have to hold signs in front of the White House, I will. If I have to live stream and if they cut my mic, there is no stopping me or any of the parents that are before me and next to me, because we need change. As I said, we need change now. So I think that the big issue is that the narrative of what's really happening in schools is being hidden. Parents are not included. They love to say all over those policies, and trust me, I've read every single one of them. And you'd be surprised what you can do on sheer anger.
Oh, I've been there.
Right? You get work done. Righteous anger. Yeah.
When somebody is not treating you the right way, and you know you're right, you just...
I love that you said that. Yeah. When you know that you're standing on truth, there is no stopping us. There's no stopping us. So parents' rights are being trampled on. This is serious. Why? I had alluded previously, I don't know if I had said it on mic, but that something else is potentially coming, right? We have seen the indoctrination of our children because we don't co-parent with the board. Right? And I think that that's a phrase that goes on a lot. And speaking of teachers...
Wait, you mean the school system says we co-parent?
Yes.
Okay.
And not specifically, I won't say Violence said that, but I watch a lot of news.
Sure.
And this is what they say, that, there are children as well. We love them as well. No, thank you. Take care of my kid. Focus on math and language. And yes, love them, but not in the way that we share authority.
No, yeah, don't get me wrong. Look, I don't have kids, so I can only imagine what parents like you feel when you feel like you're losing control to some random entity.
Yeah.
I'm just watching.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I was just sitting there at that school board meeting that you talk about, and I'm like, I can't imagine if my kid was going through something like that, and then they say, well, we're just co-parents, and sometimes we'll tell you the truth. Sometimes we'll keep secrets from you. And
so...
policy 5756, that one line that everybody likes to dismiss, it doesn't actually say what it says.
Yeah.
We didn't intend it to say that.
And this is actually not my first speech. Speaking of things that are being hidden, last year, a lot of parents, a lot of the Christian community stood up to a policy that was going to allow students to transition to what they believed was another gender. And I say that because I believe that there are only two genders. And I say that in my full right. And so they wanted to allow students to transition and not tell the parents.
Oh, I know.
Okay, you were there.
I was at that meeting.
That was fire.
I read it. I'm not going to name names, but
Name
when
names.
I tried...
We're naming names.
No. Because you're in a particular place and you're making a specific case.
Yeah.
But I'll say I emailed the school board candidates about, well, where is policy 5756? Because I had only heard about it a couple days ahead of time.
I heard it the day of.
Right, and then so I wanted to read it and be informed and actually make an intelligent comment. And the answer I got back was just Google it. And I'm like, I hate that phrase. Like, I get it. There's a lot of stuff on the internet that's easily found if you just Google it. But I remember in that specific case, I Googled policy 5756, and when it comes up, it's not labeled policy 5756. It's labeled something else, and so then I'm like, well, it's not even popping up. How much easier would it be for the people who actually know what to look for to just send the link?
Right. Send the link or say, this is a policy to trample on parental rights. Well, they didn't win. I will say also, in all of this, I started noticing, I want to know what the board votes on. I was very keen to see who were the ones for it and who were the ones against it. To that, I say I thank Dennis Rivera. He is on the board. I don't know him, but I heard great things about him, and he did not agree with that policy. Tremendous work, and from what I see, we need him on the board. And so with that, what can parents do?
Actually, for your knowledge, we only got about 3 or 4 minutes left, so anything you definitely want to say? get to it.
Yes, so there's a chain of command, definitely. I would say parents, come to the board, make your speeches, make them clean, tempered, controlled, and come written with what you have to say.
That's good.
Yes.
Put it in writing, because a lot of people, they like to do the thing of speaking from the heart. And sometimes if you're really good at it, that's fine.
Right.
But I've seen plenty of people, whether they're voters or candidates, they just start rambling. And it's like, well, what were you actually trying to say there?
Right.
So anyway, go ahead.
And there are things that can be done. There's funding. There's initiatives besides the 1 week of respect that they did this month. Mercer County partners with the prosecutor's office, and they have numerous assemblies and a mission to not tolerate bullying or violence. And I want to know, where's the money at? I want to know, I'm a taxpayer. We're paying taxpayers. We want change.
Highest property taxes in the nation.
Yeah.
I think. It's up there, if not literally the top. But anyway.
Yes. So with that, we've paid into the system. Board members are voted in, and they can be voted out. And I do this for my child, and I just echo the voice of every parent. Don't stop. Follow up the chain of command. Keep a record and fill the room.
Fill the room, meaning show up to the school board meetings.
Yes.
Keep a record of everything.
Yes.
Bring witnesses, I think you said before.
Yes.
So that
do everything by email if you can.
And then we only got about a minute or so left. How can people get in touch with you to help organize?
Yes, so I'm in the works of that. I have an email address, parentsvoiceofnewjersey@gmail.com.
Parents Voice of New Jersey written out?
NJ. So
okay.
parentsvoiceofnj@gmail.com. I want to hear from you.
Okay, cool.
I have your back.
All right. Norm, how much time we got? 1 minute? All right. So, everybody out there in Cumberland County and beyond, again, this is Inform the Vote NJ Radio Hour. My name is Steve Soloff. Usually I cover elections and the candidates themselves, but sometimes it's very interesting to hear from members of the community, especially the ones who are bridging the gap into activism. So today you've heard from Victoria Iris Santos, who had a bullying incident lead to pulling her kid out of the school system, and she's trying to help parents raise their concerns. And just like the candidates themselves and the school board members themselves say, fill the room. They want you to be there. Go ahead, write down your 5 minutes of public comments and let them hear it, so that we can be a more engaged and informed community. And one more time, what is that email address?
parentsvoiceofnj@gmail.com. And thank you, Stephen, for having me. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for showing up. And with that, we'll see you next week, maybe with a candidate, or maybe with, I don't know, anybody I feel like, because it's my radio hour and I don't answer to anybody either. All right. Bye, guys. See ya.
This is Brian Lankin, owner of Al Shoes at 639 Lannis Avenue in downtown Vineland. We carry shoes for the entire family from size 0 all the way up to